Hey guys, how's it going? Swood here, just going to be bringing you another video. I was planning to do a skeleton tech video today, but I woke up and the balance changes came out and they fortunately nerfed my skeletons. So instead I'm going to be doing a balance change video. To start off, I'm just going to go over each one quickly, say if I think it's going to be impactful or not for the card, whether it's still going to be used, and then after that I'll go more in depth into every card, why I think it'll be impactful or not, and significant changes. So just to start off, we'll just go through everything quickly and see how it is. So very first one is the nerf to the Night Witch. Oh, actually before I start, these changes are going live on Monday, so that will be after the CCGS week 1, and it will give them about 5 days to prepare for week 2. So it's better timing than the E-Barb nerf or buff for the Crown Duel that backstab 1. But anyways, getting into the cards. Night Witch, very first card, it is spawning less bats on death, spawning them less frequently, and there'd be just less bat spawns. So overall, all these are nerfs to how many bats, how quick. So it's the spawning ability of the Night Witch that is getting nerfed. Overall, it's still going to be a very strong card, the Night Witch. Still be used a lot, just not as strong, which is good. The Tornado, Poison, Heal, changing them so that they are all able to be stacked. That's irrelevant for 1v1. It's a 2v2 thing, which will be coming because they are doing 2v2 friendlies in this update, or they should be, this one or the next one. So that's what this change is for, it's not for 1v1. The Tornado nerf, 2.5 seconds instead of 3 seconds for the duration. It will bring down usage rates. It will still be usable. It will be a higher skill cap because it will be harder to do everything. You need to be more precise with your timing. So it'll still be used, but not as much, and it'll be more room for mistakes. So you'll see who's really good with Tornado and who's using it and just getting away with it. Next up, the Log. It looks like a nerf because they're reducing the range by half a tile, but actually it's a buff to the Log. Excuse me. What they're doing is they are fixing it so you can hover logs over buildings such as your Elixir Collector or your Expo, so you can log over your stuff. They were going to do this nerf 1 or 2 updates ago, but they decided not to just because of the fact that there's this bug, so they reverted it. Now the bug is fixed, or going to be fixed, so they're changing the nerf. They're changing it back to what it was supposed to be nerfed to. I don't think it's really going to be significant. You'll still be able to log a Goblin Barrel and a Princess at the bridge, and that was the most notable thing that OJ said. But so overall, it's a buff to the log. It's good. You can log Goblin Barrels when your Elixir Collector is placed in the middle, and you can log on top of an Expo, which is good. And next up, Goblin Gang. They're taking away a Spear Goblin from us. Let's try to zoom that in for you guys. So they're taking away one of the 3 Spear Goblins from the Goblin Gang. Overall, the Goblin Gang will still be used a lot, it's just not as much. Next up, Skeletons. They're reducing it from 3 to 4. It will be used, not as much. Skeletons were one of the most used cards in the games. It will go down to about, I'm assuming, half the decks, but it'll still be used. Next up, the Bandit. It's getting HP buff and it's getting a quicker dash. The Bandit was already balanced. It still will be balanced for the most part. It's just going to get a bit more playtime. It won't be OP by any means, just a bit more playtime likely in Golem decks. Inferno Dragon is getting a 7% HP buff and retargeting buff from 1.2 seconds to 1 second. This will help get Inferno Dragon a little bit of playtime and competitive. If you for some reason know you're playing against like beatdowns such as Golem, Houndloon, Giant Graveyard, and you can throw in your Inferno Dragon instead of like Mega Minion or Baby Dragon in your Houndloon deck, and it'll just help you get a better matchup. I did that a couple times in CCGS, but outside of that, Inferno Dragon still won't be played lots. Which is getting an HP. Area damage is going to go from 1 tile to 1.1, similar to like the Executioner nerf that went down by 0.1 tile. Spawn speed for the skeletons going up a bit, and it won't spawn the initial skeletons as quick. overall, they're just trying to pad the stats to make it more comparable to the Night Witch. It won't be played lots, don't worry. If you're at 2,000 trophies, maybe worry, but if you're playing competitive or max ladder, it shouldn't be a problem. Clone, same thing as Witch, it won't really change anything. Maybe 1% of players who play Clone, it will help you a little bit, but even then, it won't be that significant. And Battle Ram, they're changing it so that if you have troops that do AoE damage, or not AoE damage, but like roll through, such as Bowler, Executioner, or Log, they won't roll through the Battle Ram into the Barbarians and affect the first set of that first roll won't also hit the Barbarians. So it's just a slight buff to the Battle Ram. It will just help it survive better against like Executioner, Tornado. And the bats that were originally going to come out with 5 of them, they're just changing it to 4 because they're seeing how strong it is inside of the Night Witch. So they're just changing that. So that is the quick version. Now I'm going to go more in depth and just talk through my thoughts on the changes, what they could have changed differently maybe, what I was hoping for, and all of that. So to start off, Night Witch, when they released Night Witch initially, they just gave it too many abilities. It was good damage, it tanked a decent amount, like you could do Night Witch Graveyard, it still tanked. It spawned bats on death, like they just padded it with too many good abilities. So them taking away or just nerfing how many it spawns, how quick it spawns, it's good. It's still going to be very usable. I think between Night Witch and Ewiz, I'm not sure which one's going to be used more, because Night Witch sort of replaced the Ewiz in most decks. But part of that reason, okay, so I'm going to get into Ewiz. So Ewiz is getting an indirect buff in this update. The reason Ewiz lost all its usage was, there's 3 reasons in my opinion. Reason number 1, Night Witch. Reason number 2, Skeletons. And reason number 3 was Tornado. So before Night Witch even came out though, you saw a drop in Ewiz usage in like Graveyard Cycle decks, for example. It was like Archers, Mega Minion, Ice Golem, Knight, Skeletons, all those cards. No Ewiz. Kennan's deck originally had it, but we changed it just because it was better with Archers. Anyways, the reasons why is with Skeletons you could shut down a 4 elixir card at the 4 elixir card for 1 elixir and it'd get no damage. So that was really big. The second one is a full health Ewiz, you could Tornado and it would activate your King Tower for like 300 damage, which especially if you're playing like Splash Yard and you had an Ewiz, or you could do the same thing with Knight with the Tornado, but for the Ewiz, if you activate the King Tower and you're playing Splash Yard, that really hurt you. Basically lost you the game because you had an extra tower shooting all your Skeletons, and it was very hard to get damage through a Splash Yard. And then, was that 2 of them? Yeah, so those were the 2. Actually, it was also another one. It was harder to cycle an Ewiz than Archer, so that's why we were playing it. But then with the Night Witch coming out, and it was just so strong, it replaced Ewiz when Ewiz was already dying and people didn't really realize it. So now that Night Witch is getting a nerf and Ewiz is getting a buff, it's going to be interesting to see which one gets more play. I think they'll both be played. I don't think they'll be played together, but I think every deck will have at least one of them. Only exception maybe 3 Musk, if it just runs like Knight or Miner and Battle Ram. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Night Witch and also the indirect Ewiz buff. I like the buff for the Ewiz. If Night Witch didn't come out and people didn't realize that Skeletons were able to shut down Ewiz, I think Ewiz could have got another nerf like the Mega Minion did. Mega Minion got 2 or 3 nerfs, and now you still see a little bit of usage with Helmloon and Expo. I think Ewiz would have been the same way, but because of the Skeletons and Night Witch, they overshadowed it, and they gave it actually some buffs instead of nerfs when everyone was complaining about how OP it was a month or 2 ago. So it's going to be still a really, very good card. So 2v2 friendlies are coming out, and if you watch Clash of Flash's video, they leaked it on a Japanese YouTube something. Anyways, 2v2 friendlies coming out in this update, so there'll be 2v2 leagues and stuff. So 2v2 is going to start becoming more competitive. It's not just going to be random on a ladder or whatever for the crown challenge chest, whatever it's called. So they are allowing you to stack tornadoes, poisons, heals. So what this does is if both players have a tornado, you can troops are coming down one lane, you can tornado to the middle, you can tornado to the other side, and you can double poison for stuff like double furnace or lots of troops when you're playing a golem or a giant on the bridge. So I think poison's gonna be really strong in 2v2. It already was, but it was like you only wanted one player to play poison. Now it's not a bad idea if both of you play poison because they're allowed to stack. So I think poison, this will really help in 2v2. Tornado also. Heal, I don't think it'll make a big deal, but that's only for 2v2, those changes. That won't really affect 1v1 unless you're getting crazy with your mirrors. But for the tornado in 1v1, they are nerfing the duration to 2.5 seconds from 3. Overall, I think this is a good nerf. I think the only other thing they could have done is, well, they could have changed the radius. I think it's like 5 tiles each way. They could have changed it to like 4.5 or 4. That was one good nerf. The other one was potentially they could change the pull rate, like pull how strong it pulls. But I think for Golem and Battle Ram, I think you need this to keep the same pull, or else it's not going to be able to pull stuff. Like a Battle Ram almost outruns the Tornado pull. It's very close, but if you nerf the pull, then the Battle Ram just get even stronger. So I think this was a good nerf to get the duration down. It will still be able to activate a King Tower with E-Wiz, maybe not E-Wiz, I don't know, we'll have to test it, but Knight, like any mini tank, Hog, Golem, Giant, they'll also be able to activate King Tower. Goblin Barrel, you have to be more precise. So this will just make the card a higher skill cap card, which is good for the game. If you want to have high skill cap cards, it'll be harder to deny all damage with like a Hog and you just tornado to the middle. It might not work, you might have to play skeletons or something with it. Something we have to test, but so tornado will still be very good. It just won't be as strong as it is right now. So you might see a little bit of comeback with Inferno Tower or Inferno Dragon, but tornado should still get usage. Just how many people use it, that's the question. So the log, I think I talked about this one lots in the first section, but they're changing it. So they're fixing the bug where you can log on top of an expo or on top of a elixir collector. So it's the buff to the log. It's going to be good for expo players and good for like golem players and 3 muskies. If people are trying to Goblin Barrel your pumps in the middle for some reason, happens. But this will just help you shut that down. It's the range nerf, I don't really think it does anything. If I remember OJ's video, he said it was going to stop you from logging a Goblin Barrel and a Princess, but it didn't. I don't know if that was because they didn't change it, but anyways, it should still be perfectly fine. It's not many situations where a Princess is on the bridge anyways. So buff to the log. Overall, good buff. It's just fixing a bug, which needed. Next card, the Goblin Gang. Considering how much the Goblin Gang was used, I think a nerf was needed. This was a good nerf. It was either this or take away a Stab Goblin, or nerf one of the 2 cards, but then that would kill like the individual Stab Goblins or Spear Goblins. So I think this was a good change. I'm not sure the reasoning picking the Spear Goblin instead of the Stab Goblin to take away it. I think OJ said the DPS is still gonna be fairly high. It's just taking away like one Spear Goblin's not gonna be a game changer on the DPS, so it still should be used in most decks. If lots of people are playing Zap, the goblins will still do stuff. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot to mention is the tornado. It's going from 3 seconds to 2.5, so the damage of the tornado is going from, I believe, 170 to 145, which will make it so Stab Goblins won't die in a tornado. So that's a buff to Goblin Gang, actually. So at the same time, this nerf, it won't be a full-on nerf to Goblin Gang. It's getting a buff at the same time. So Goblin Gang will still get lots of usage. I think 3 Muskies will still play it. The only thing is this is also another buff to the Battle Ram, because there's not going to be as many Goblin Gangs they're going to be facing. Same with Skeletons, which are 2 cards that shut down a Battle Ram at the bridge. So overall, yeah, still going to be a very good card. Just might not be in every deck as it is right now. And Skeletons, I think the same way. Sadly, our Skeletons got shut down to 3. What I wanted, so as Skeletons, they were the best card in the game. People may think that Night Witch or E-Wiz, well, okay, Night Witch probably, but Night Witch post nerf and E-Wiz were better than skeletons, I disagree. I think Ewiz and Night Witch were more impactful cards, but skeletons were better. They just weren't, because they're not a support card or a win condition, they weren't as impactful. They're just a distraction card, but they got so much value from the one elixir that I think they were the best card in the game. As terms of nerf, this is putting the DPS from 270 to 210, give or take a couple. So what I was hoping for a nerf was they would change the HP and the damage of skeletons. The HP so that Ice Wizard would one-shot them, and the damage so they would do less against tanks. So I was hoping the DPS would change from, they would keep the 4 skeletons, but the DPS would change from 270 to like 240, 250, instead of taking away a skeleton and bringing it down to 210. That would have been a better nerf in my opinion, to still keep the Ewiz against skeletons interaction. Now it's going to change. So I think skeletons aren't going to be in every deck like they are right now, but I still think they're going to be fairly popular. Ice Spirit's not going to be getting lots of value against tanks, because Ice Spirit's the tank, doesn't do much, whereas skeletons will still do DPS. So I think skeletons will still get playtime, just not as much. Bandit, again, not a crazy buff, just a little nudge. I think you're going to see a bit of Golem. So Golem's going to have a lot of different variations now, in my opinion. You have so many different options for support cards. There's Mega Minion, Ewiz, Baby Dragon, Night Witch, Bandit, Skeletons. So you'll see a bit of all those in my opinion, and Golem just depends on if you're playing ladder, what you have maxed, or in competitive, what you're familiar with. Overall, not going to be a game changer, but I think this is a good buff for the Bandit. It's just, it was a little underwhelming, so this will bring it back into competitive play. Inferno Dragon, again, this similar to the Bandit, it was underwhelming. It's very few instances where Inferno Dragon you want to have in your deck, especially against 3 Muskies. There's no real place for Inferno Dragon, and 3 Muskies is the most popular right now and will be after the update too. Like I said, I think the Inferno Dragon, the only place it has is in a Houndloon deck, when you know you're going to be facing against Golem, another Houndloon, Giant. Outside of that, I don't think it has a place, but this will help. Retargets quicker, has more HP, so I think before it still survived Lightning Zap, but now for sure after. So if you have an Inferno Dragon against a tank, there's no way they're taking it down unless they rocket it, which I haven't seen anyone play tank rocket except Godslayer and Little B Base God, so shouldn't have to worry about that one too much. And the Witch, I think this was a silly nerf, or silly buff, my bad. They're just trying to buff the stats everywhere to make it usable. That's not how you should do it. If you wanna, you should either just leave it as a low arena card, or if you want to change it, you should change it so it doesn't die to Fireball Zap. Because at 5 elixir, you can't have a card that is left on 1 HP, like a Musketeer and Ewiz from a Fireball. Why would I want to play a 5 elixir card that's at 1 HP after a Fireball, when I can play a 1 elixir or a 4 elixir card that's at 1 HP, like a Musketeer or Ewiz? So I still think Witch is going to be not used at all. And same with Clone. This change, I don't think it does anything to the Clone. It'll be the same underwhelming card. Battle Ram, I think, so 3 Muskies overall got a huge buff this update. I think 1 is Night Witch nerf, Tornado nerf, Goblin Gang nerf, Skeletons nerf, Battle Ram buff. So like all these things are gonna help 3 Muskie. Even though 3 Muskie decks have Skeletons and Goblin Gang, I don't think the Skeletons in the 3 Muskie deck were like the end all be all of all the cards. It would just be a psycho card. Maybe they'll put an Ice Spirit, but the biggest thing is you play Pump, you play 3 Muskies, you throw a Battle Ram in front, you throw a Miner, and you see if they can defend with not enough elixir, which most of the time they can't. So it's just the cards you're going to be seeing defending aren't going to be as strong in DPS wise, so the Battle Ram is more likely to connect to the tower, or they're going to have to commit more to the Battle Ram, so your other side is going to do more damage. So I think 3 Muskies will be really strong overall. So I'm not a huge fan of this. The reason they did this buff to the Battle Ram is just because it was like a glitch. They were, or that the log and everything, log bowler executioner would damage our barbarians. That wasn't their initial intent, so they're just changing that. But it also at the same time I was wishing they would have, like, if they did this change, they would also like nerf how fast it ran or something, but they didn't do that, so we'll have to deal with Three Muskets being super popular. And just finally the bats count go down to 4. I think that's good. We all saw how strong bats are with the Night Witch. I think once bats come out and are maxed out, I really think Graveyard level 4 will be usable. The reason it's not usable now is because you play skeletons, they kill half the graveyard for 1 elixir. Because a level 4 graveyard spawns level 12 skeletons, and max skeletons are level 13, so they take 2 hits from the graveyard skeletons, so they kill half the graveyard. And I think if people are running bats instead of skeletons now because of the nerf to skeletons, then people just play graveyard zap. You can zap the bats right away, and if they still play skeletons, you can still zap those too. So play like giant graveyard with zap. The only reason you wouldn't want zap is if they have spellbait, but still think you should be able to beat spellbait with like giant poison graveyard zap. So I think graveyard zap is going to be a thing on ladder for level 4 graveyards for sure, maybe even level 5 graveyards. I'm not sure if it's going to come down to competitive play, but we'll have to see. So those are my thoughts on the update. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment. Quickly, the fan in the background I turned off. I didn't realize that would be such an issue. So it should be good now. Let me know if the sound is good. Also, my lighting, someone commented on that. So this was my lighting beforehand. As you can see up here in the corner, you can see the light. So what I did for most of the video is I turned off my main lamp, or my main light, and I just had a lamp on the floor. So it was good lighting, just wasn't shining in any place. So let me know if I should keep what I had today, or should I go back to this. And other than that, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Have a good day.